Something happens, something good, a promotion, a message from someone who matters, a goal finally reached after months or years of quiet effort. And there it is, the moment that should feel like something, the moment others would celebrate or cry or at least smile about. But inside, there is only stillness, a kind of quiet acknowledgement, like receiving mail that was expected. The news registers, it is understood, and yet the body does not respond. The chest does not swell, the face does not change. There is no rush of warmth, no relief, no joy. Just presence, just the fact of it. And then, almost immediately, a second experience begins. The awareness that something is missing, that the reaction others would have, the reaction that feels normal, is simply not there. And this absence starts to feel louder than the news itself. This is not rare. It is not a sign of brokenness. It is not necessarily a symptom of anything clinical. But it is worth sitting with, because what it reveals is often more important than the good news ever was. The nervous system is not designed to celebrate. It is designed to survive. And when a life has been shaped by prolonged uncertainty, by emotional vigilance, by years of bracing for the next difficult thing, the system learns. It adapts. It stops reacting to positive signals not out of ingratitude, but out of economy. Why mobilize hope when hope has so often preceded disappointment? Why open when closing has kept things manageable? This is not pessimism. It is learned stillness. The body remembers every time joy was followed by loss, every time excitement preceded collapse. And so it makes a decision, quietly, beneath awareness, to stop participating in the highs, to stay level, to observe rather than feel. This is protection. But protection, sustained long enough, becomes indistinguishable from absence. There is another possibility, one less comfortable to name. Sometimes emotional flatness is not the result of too much pain. Sometimes it is the result of too little friction. A life that has become too smooth, too managed, too optimized, where discomfort is routinely avoided, where uncertainty is minimized at every turn, can slowly lose its capacity for intensity. Not because something is wrong, but because nothing is demanding. The soul needs resistance. It needs something to push against, something that matters enough to provoke a response. And in the absence of that resistance, even good things begin to feel like scenery. Pleasant, perhaps, but not alive. There are also goals that were never truly chosen, achievements that belong to an image, a version of the self constructed for others, or for survival, or for belonging. The promotion pursued because it was expected. The relationship maintained because leaving felt impossible. The milestones that look correct on paper, but feel hollow in the chest. When good news arrives for a life built on misaligned aims, the flatness is not dysfunction. It is signal. The self recognizing that this victory belongs to someone else, to a mask, to a role. And the one underneath, the one who was never consulted, has no reason to celebrate. Jung called this mask the persona, the face shown to the world, the identity constructed to navigate social reality. It is not false, exactly, but it is partial. And when the persona grows too dominant, when it begins making all the decisions, the deeper self withdraws. It pulls back its energy, its enthusiasm, its participation. The result is a strange kind of success, outwardly admirable, inwardly vacant. The applause is real. The emptiness is also real, and neither cancels the other. There is something harder to admit. Sometimes the inability to feel joy is not protection, not exhaustion, not misalignment. Sometimes it is identity, a way of being that has become familiar, even necessary. The person who does not get excited is also the person who cannot be accused of naivety. The one who remains unmoved is also the one who cannot be wounded by hope. There is quiet power in emotional neutrality, a sense of being above the chaos, untouchable, somehow wiser than those still vulnerable to feeling. And that power, once tasted, is difficult to surrender. This is not cynicism exactly. It is something subtler, a relationship with detachment that has become self-sustaining, an identity built around not needing, not wanting, not reacting. And what began as response to pain eventually becomes architecture. The walls that once kept danger out now keep everything out, including the very things that might make life feel worth continuing. Jung observed that the psyche tends toward balance, what he called Enantiodromia. When someone moves too far in one direction, an opposite force begins to gather in the unconscious. Years of forced optimism can produce sudden despair. Years of emotional suppression can produce unexpected eruptions. And years of living through intensity, crisis after crisis, demand after demand, can eventually produce a profound stillness. Not peace, necessarily, but exhaustion dressed as peace. A system that has stopped oscillating, not because it found equilibrium, but because it ran out of fuel. The shadow plays its role here, too. All the vitality that was deemed inappropriate, all the desire that felt dangerous, all the joy that seemed unsafe to express, these do not disappear. They sink. They gather in the places we refuse to look, and from there, they influence everything without announcing themselves. The shadow does not negotiate. It simply withdraws what it was never permitted to offer, and the result is a life that functions, that succeeds, that moves forward, but feels inexplicably like it belongs to someone else, like watching a film of one's own existence rather than living it. None of this is meant to diagnose. None of this is meant to alarm. But emotional flatness in the face of good news is not a small thing to wave away. It is not simply stress or tiredness or a difficult week. It is the self attempting to communicate something it cannot say directly. And the question is not how to fix it or how to force feeling back into the body through sheer will. The question is simpler and far more difficult. What is this stillness protecting? And what is it costing? There may be no clear answer. There may only be the willingness to stay with the question, to tolerate the discomfort of not knowing whether this numbness is wisdom or wound, whether it is the residue of survival or the quiet abandonment of living, whether the calm that is settled over everything represents a kind of hard-won mastery or a kind of slow surrender. The good news will keep arriving. Life will continue to present its milestones, its achievements, its moments that should feel like something. And each time, there is a choice. Not to feel, because feeling cannot be commanded, but to notice, to remain present with the absence, to wonder, without rushing to judgment, what part of the self has gone silent, and whether, under different conditions, it might still have something left to say. That wondering is not a solution, but it may be the only honest place to begin.